right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Decision Hour. I'm your host, Adam Bird, and if you're seeing this, we are doing some video today. First time for everything, I guess. Yeah, but I'm excited to be back behind the mic. I'm even more excited about the young lady I have as a guest today. Today, we're talking with U.S. Army veteran. She was an infantry qualified officer. She was a public affairs company commander. She is a entrepreneur, a public speaker. She is also a human performance and leadership strategist. She is a force to be reckoned with. My new friend, Miss Riley Gruppo. Riley, how are you?
Hi, good. Thank you. That was nice. Thank you for that intro.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time that we've had offline, kind of getting to know each other a little bit through a mutual friend of ours. So thank you. I think your story is amazing, and welcome to the show. Let's dive into this. I want to start with just kind of giving everybody a little taste of who Riley is exactly. So give us a little bit background on yourself.
A little bit about me. I am an Army brat and had generations of Army in my family. A lot of Green Berets, 18 Deltas, dad, grandfather, uncle. So essentially groomed to be in the infantry
Yeah.
unknowingly. But so yeah, sure enough, after high school, joined the Army. Um, I went through the early commissioning program, which is a little unique. It's an accelerated program. So when I was in high school, I was applying for an Army scholarship, and that's what I received. And it's essentially a 4-year scholarship.
Mm.
But the stipulation is you have to go to a junior military college and serve.
Right.
So I was in the Guard for 4 years and then active for about 4. And then after that, I went into corporate world and I had a couple corporate jobs. I quit both of them. And here we are. I embarked on this full
Wow.
tilt entrepreneurial journey about 3, going on 4 months now. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I said, I want to help
I love
people.
it.
I want to have more of an impact than making somebody else a bunch of money that doesn't care about their people. So here we are. But it was always something in the back of my mind. I've always known that I didn't want to work for anybody else. And our mutual friend pushed me to that decision.
Yeah.
So,
And
and God.
yeah, I love it. I wanna go back to your military side of it. So I'm assuming you're talking about ROTC. Did you do was that in college, right?
Yes.
So after college, you commission.
hmm
Where was your first assignment?
So I was in the Guard in Pennsylvania, actually, as a cadet. So technically enlisted for 2 years. And that was out of Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. And
Oh,
that was an
sure.
infantry unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down the road,
Yeah.
probably. No.
Yeah. Actually, yes, it is. Yeah.
um, and then my second unit, which was the more interesting one, I should say, was out of El Cajon, California, which is by San Diego.
Yeah.
That was a infantry, part of an infantry brigade combat team, and it was a cav unit, and I was the only woman and the first woman to be in that unit. And then I went on active duty. I did my infantry qualification training,
Yeah.
and that was at Fort Benning. I was supposed to go to funny story, Vicenza, Italy, for my first assignment. Actually, it was my top choice, but I sustained an injury, and honestly, I said, "Fuck this! I'm not doing this anymore," because
Yeah.
it really, like, I'm a very active person,
Right.
and I'd seen it for 4 years, and I was expecting some grand change. Going on to active duty. But to me, in my opinion, it was really just the same thing, but more resources as the Guard or reserves and a full time job with it. So, with that, I stayed at Benning, did a little drug deal, if you will,
Yeah.
and stayed local, ended up taking some classes there. I was out of the OSA unit, which is the one station unit training. So it
Yeah.
was and it might still be true that at the time it was the only gender integrated infantry OSIT, so the basic training with the AIT.
Riley, let me ask. I got to ask this question because it's still relatively new. I'm an older veteran. In fact, when I went through basic training, we were the second class that was co-ed in the Army at the time. That's how old I am. What was it like as a woman being in the infantry?
Well, so like I said, I was basically groomed into going into it, so it wasn't really
Wasn't a lot of
unusual.
right? Yeah.
So, I grew up shooting guns, I wrestled, I was very masculine, even though I didn't look like it, I guess. But yeah, so wow, that's kind of a loaded question there, Adam. But
It is. It
it
is.
was knowing what I know now,
Right.
it was if I could describe it compared to the world outside, because again, that was all I'd known. So the standards that I accepted and should not have accepted, um, it was a very misogynistic environment, and it was very toxic.
Yeah.
So those first 2 units were really toxic, and again, my first introduction into the army, and even my instructor, the professor of military science, he would pick on me because I was the only one that wanted to go infantry. I think maybe a couple of guys did, but out of our little ROTC class, we had 33. I was the only woman that wanted to go. I think we had eight in my class. But he would always pick on me. He was an infantry officer. He was a classic misogynistic asshole. And and yeah, he would literally, for example, and this just paints the picture of how I was treated, um, usually.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all bad, but he would pull me into his office and he would say things to me like, put your big girl panties on, and give me the weirdest criticisms about the most specific things, like in the way I worded an email, for example. So the microscope thing and the target on my back was very real. Um, and I was prepared for that because people, I mean, it was controversial, and that's honestly part of the reason why I wanted to join, because I had a bigger ego then and I had something to prove. But more importantly, I wanted to show people like my little sister, who's going to be 14 in a month, that you can do anything despite what anyone says. So it was a little rough. So-
I can only imagine. I've talked to other women that have done combat roles. We've got a retired lieutenant colonel on our network that was in a cav unit and whatnot, and it's just hearing this. But these are stories that need to be told. So
Mhm.
I appreciate you being open to discuss it.
Thank you. And I agree. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I embarked on this journey. What I initially started doing when I started posting openly was just literally telling my truth in an attractive storytelling way, of course,
Right.
but my experiences and my truth, and it blew up. I mean, I think within the first month or two, I had over 1 million views on my social Instagram alone,
Wow.
not counting LinkedIn and the other platforms. But
Talking about your experience.
yeah, so one that really blew up, it was a stitch I made with um, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his last name. Tony Glenn, Anthony Glenn,
Okay.
but he goes by Tony. And he's a huge veteran advocate and he has this awesome podcast that I ended up being on. But I did a stitch with an episode. He had a young woman that was in a combat role in the Marine Corps, and she basically said, it's inevitable that you get sexually assaulted and harassed in the military. She said, you're going to, with such conviction. And I said, wow, let's make something of this. And so it was just me commenting on it, and that blew up. Um, but it also verified why those situations happen. It validated it because people in the comments, I mean, you can go to them right now. I don't delete them. I leave them, so people can see, just to prove my point and everyone else's point. They're the problem. Calling me DEI hire, saying women shouldn't be in the military, period. Things like that, because we're just a problem, apparently. So
It's really kind of shocking. I don't want to say shocking because it seems like nowadays this shit doesn't shock me anymore.
yeah,
But that we're still having that problem.
I agree. I agree. And now the whole conversation about, oh, we're gonna reverse this decision that we made, and screw all the people that went through this and trailblazed to make way for the people after them. Let's reverse this. But I think they just landed recently that they're not going to reverse the women in combat roles.
Yeah, I
And
don't. Here's yeah. It's. I had mixed emotions when I was younger about it, but now that I've gotten more seasoned in life, I remember there was a time, and I was in Iraq in '03, and we were with a special forces unit, and some of the women didn't get picked. It was an all males got picked, and some of the women that were there, great women, friends with today, love them all as sisters. Some of them were like, no, we should be able to go, blah blah blah. So they did, and then we got into some stuff, and they were like, I don't want to be a part of this. And it was just like, okay, I get it from that perspective, but women, there's tons of women that have seen combat, and I mean, that's not just. I'm not talking recent. Like, you look at our military history, women have always been in combat in some form or fashion. That's part of the
hmm
history. Their story doesn't get told as much, or it gets overshadowed by things. And this is just Adam's opinion, but those are stories that need to be told, right?
I agree.
We
I
can't
agree.
forget that. And then fast forward to things that you've gone through. I want to go a
hmm
little bit deeper into that. So you've gone to infantry, you did that, and you were at Benning, you said, right?
hmm
Okay, so
Yes.
what
hmm
happened next? Walk us through what happened. What was after infantry?
Well, the plan, Adam, was I thought maybe I'd go into the medical field with the Army's PA programs. That's what my own father did. And I realized soon after I started taking biology and chemistry classes, I'm really bad at math and chemistry. So that dream faded. I think at the time the standards changed, and at the time the standard was I had to have a B in all the classes, and I was a C.
Ah,
But C's get degrees, so
yeah. So
but
my mentality was a D will get you a degree, man. Just all you got to do is get through it.
it wasn't meant to be. So I thought public affairs made sense. I actually got my degree in advertising.
Oh, nice.
Um, so I've always loved marketing and social media
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It really lights me up. But um, yeah, so it made sense. I spoke to a lot of people. All the units I was into, I always had an additional duty of the public affairs person, probably because I was a woman, or I am a woman. but but
You heard it here first, folks.
yeah, surprise! I'm actually transitioning
Oh,
now. All that for nothing. Just kidding. No, that was a joke. You should really include that though, because that would be
yeah,
lovely to
we're.
see
I might just
what.
clip that part out, just that little part. So did you?
But yeah, so I went over to public affairs. I did another drug deal. Okay, lots of
Yeah.
lots of drug deals. Not
Yeah.
real drugs though.
Uh,
Okay. Um,
so did you end up here up at what is that, Fort Meade?
Fort Meade,
Yeah.
yes. So the director at the time, and they hadn't even started the pilot program, but they were allowing brand new, like, second lieutenants, first lieutenants into public affairs, whereas you typically had to, because it's a functional area, you
Right.
typically had to be like a captain promotable or a major to go into something like that.
Right.
So they were piloting that, they were testing it, and the director said, "Come on down." He interviewed me and he said, "Great." So I went over there as the XO,
Okay.
and then I ended up taking command at the AIT.
So how long were
So
you over at Meade then?
I was there. I got to think about this. It was about 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah. hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
all right. And then from there, what happens?
From there, well, I think that's where, and we'll get into it, but in a nutshell, I was the XO. I ended up, it was only, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago.
Sure.
Um, so what happened was, uh, now I know what happened. At the time, I was still trying to sort it out,
Mm.
but there was essentially I don't want to necessarily say an incident, but I guess it was where just years of pent up, unresolved trauma um, came to a head physiologically. And so my commander at the time was like, you should go talk to somebody. And I said, but I don't want to get out of the army, because the whole stigma of seeing somebody or going to behavioral health, you're an automatic, like you
Risk
get
of
labeled,
some
yeah, your
sort. Yeah.
risk. Just all the fears running through my head. You're non-deployable. You're going to get kicked out.
And isn't can we address something right there real quick?
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of it. The military spends so much money training us,
Hmm.
but then if we break, instead of trying to fix us, it's just on to the next.
Yes.
When imagine how it would be cost effective to fix us, because a lot of the time most of us want to stay in the military. We don't want to leave. We want to do X, Y, and Z, but instead it's just like up onto the next. It's like you just get pushed to the side. Am I wrong for feeling? Is that still the case, Riley?
No, you're not. And I want to say something to that too, Adam, because you brought up a really good point. And so after all this stuff happened, I was eventually medically retired, but I did end up taking command before I left. And I'm really glad that I did, because now I know how um, poorly other leaders handled situations,
Right.
because you have a lot of impact and power in a command position or a position with UCMJ authority like that.
Right.
And you can rehabilitate your soldiers, you can help them, but it's more work. And so people probably just don't want to do that. And so, yeah, to your point, it largely depends on who your leadership is,
Right.
which is part of the reason why I didn't try to fight this medical retirement. I said, okay, it was all a blessing in disguise. It all worked out how it was supposed to for me.
Right.
And I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a decision that I made. But yeah, knowing what I know now about having that authority and that level of impact, there are a lot of lazy leaders out there, or careless, in my opinion.
There's a lot of leaders that are just punching their ticket.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
that's gonna
OER bullet.
that is gonna piss a lot of people off. And I don't care. It's my show.
I do that every day. I got a death threat. I got
Oh,
my first death threat.
hey, congratulations. How many people say congratulations? Hey, you got your first. Hey, congratulations, you made it. That means you did something right. You pissed
Yeah.
somebody off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good Lord.
Oh yeah. So
Recently,
many
was that
angry.
recently?
It was maybe a month ago.
Are you seriously?
I'm serious. Or like, yeah, people, I mean, I get it if you comment, cool, whatever. But to actually message me something that's bold and a little frightening, but
You just.
they're not going to do it. I do worry about that though. I do worry about that. But if you don't stand for anything, you stand for nothing, right? Or I probably totally butchered that quote, but
you were close.
you fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Is that right? Listen, I'm not dyslexic, but I'm a little slow.
I totally lost my train of thought here.
You know what I mean, though, right? You got to be polarizing. Otherwise, you're everyone's best friend. What does that say about you?
Yeah, you can't be.
You don't have your own opinions?
Yeah, you can't. I'm the one person, and you ask our mutual friend, and I think this is why he comes to me so often, because I'm not the yes, go with it kind of a thing. It's like I'm very much a tough love kind of person. Like, you're not is there a more tactical way that I could say something? Sure, but then I'm not being me, and it's like I
Exactly.
think people would rather be me, regardless of how harsh something may come out. At least I'm being honest.
Mhm.
I'm gonna love you either way. Once you get to know me, I'm a big teddy bear. But it's getting over those first few layers, um, and then just realizing like, okay, he was a dick when he said it, but I see what he means, kind of a thing.
It's all from a place of
Yeah,
love. We're
uh,
birds of a feather.
yeah, absolutely. Um, there's so many things I want to talk to you about still. Let's talk about what were we talking about last. You were talking about
What
what
happened?
what happened. Let's if you're willing to talk about that, so we can educate
Yeah.
people on because maybe what I'm hoping for, Riley, is that somebody that's listening to this, maybe they're going through it
Mhm.
and they haven't said anything or they haven't done anything.
Mhm.
They hear your story and then they're like, hey, if she can do this, then I can do this too.
It is so powerful to hear someone else's testimony, especially someone you can relate to.
Yeah,
And I say that because I went through it.
yeah,
But I'll start at the very beginning.
yeah, yeah. Let's do that. So
And again, I know we talked about this earlier, but this is the whole premise of why I am so convicted in sharing things because I do want to help people. I never want somebody to feel alone or like they don't belong on earth because I've been there and I've seen plenty of people, especially in our community, that think that's the only answer. And that is not the only answer. And they
right,
are not alone.
right.
So,
So from the top.
yeah. So I grew up in an abusive household,
Okay.
um, alcoholic mother, emotionally, physically, sexual abuse from, my parents. And that bled into me thinking this was normal. And so my standards that I would tolerate, knowing what I know now, were not good at all. They were, I mean, awful, awful standards for a human being. But you don't know what you don't know,
Right,
and our childhood is our default programming. So I was
right,
programmed a certain way to, you know, accept abuse, basically, um, not speak up for myself because if I did, consequences, and that rang true in my military service. But basically, went into the military with that mentality, with that mindset, and my first unit. I mean, and it wasn't just the harassment. It wasn't just the comments. It was like, I mean, knowing what I know now, I probably beat the shit out of these people if I could. Like, don't touch me.
right.
Don't ask me. Um, don't comment on my body. Don't comment on my makeup, my hair, how I look. Um, yeah. For example, like all these leaders, like I mentioned, the professor of military science, it was either they were very, very hard on me like that, or they were inappropriate with me. And it was like very few in the middle.
So they felt like they
Um,
could get away with it because they were in a leadership, and I use that very, very loosely.
but they were, and going back to having so much impact in those positions, um, yeah, I just anyway, I would have done so many things differently if I was the leader, you know what I mean? Fostering this new person, this new.
Going when you were going through these things, was there a fear of if you didn't? I don't want to say play along, but for a lack of a better phrase, or if you just didn't, if you said something, did you ever fear that there'd be some type of retaliation during that time?
100%, because that was, yeah, always. I mean, if I wanted to speak up, or if I did, for example, with ROTC, I did really well. I was consistently in the top 10% of my class and any training that we did. Um, and I say that as humbly as I can, but it was just fact. And so it got to a point where I was just performing really well and it didn't matter. Like they still had their favorites and I was still treated poorly by my leadership. And so that's what I was used to. And then it ended up being that um like my point of contact, which he was I think he was the readiness NCO, so full-time National Guard guy, E7. And he was like the first one that started being inappropriate with me, like texting and just explicit messages. And mind you, I'm 18. He had a family. And so there was that. And then it was just so many similar instances. I could go on and on, but just to paint the picture, like for example, we were at a night fire. My platoon sergeant at the time was like leaning over an ammo table, groped me, like straight up pushed his pelvis against my hips, like in the dark, and walked away like nothing. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, I was in complete disbelief and I didn't know who to go to. So things like that. And one of my very first drills, and I say this because it's so ridiculous, but it just, again, it was the theme for being in that environment was with this other senior NCO, and we're going to a training site, and he's like, you know, because of how you look, your men will never respect you. And he said to me, because you're not a bull dyke, you won't have the respect of your men. Um, And so that stuck with me. And so, yeah, I tried really hard to be something that I wasn't, and that was like a really masculine person. Um, but fast forward to my next unit, same things. And I did have the courage to finally speak up because I was commissioned then, and I thought I had more, I don't know, weight to my
Right.
words, I guess.
Right.
And this was the all completely male, like first woman there. I was the first woman there out in California, and they avoided me like the plague because they were probably instructed to. And um, there was an incident with the first sergeant where he was completely inappropriate with me, and I was very uncomfortable. And I went to my commander. He was the only other officer, and I went to him and I said, "Hey, sir, I just want to put something on your radar." And I thought about this deeply. I was like, "What do I do? I don't know what to do. I need to speak up for myself." And so I did. And I said, "Listen, like it was just him and I in his office, door closed." I said, "I don't want to file a complaint or anything. I just want you to be aware. This is how I'm feeling and this is what happened." Like he was kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies anyway. We had been activated for to answer to riots. And so this was my first time meeting him. And anyway, long story short, yeah, it was just it was a predatory situation, and this guy had been in for I don't know how long, he's been around the block, like Ranger Tab.
Right.
He was a SF Tab, like, he wasn't a new anything, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
a silly little somebody with no experience. This man was a predator, and so when I went to my commander, he totally did what I know now is victim blaming, and he said, "Well, what did you do wrong?" And, um I was like, what did I do wrong? I guess I don't know. Like maybe I said
So is
something,
that a
maybe I was too
common
polite.
theme? That's a common theme then. So it's always what did the victim do wrong first as opposed
Mhm.
to
Yeah. And this commander, I don't want to be hateful, but he was awful. He was really bad. Again, knowing what I know about being in command and taking care of your soldiers, especially if a soldier came to me like that, like not trying to use the system, just genuinely feeling uncomfortable, especially as the only person that looks like me in that unit,
yeah.
like navigating this complex ecosystem that is new and uncharted. And I'm going to tell you, what did you do wrong? Oh, by the way, the same guy, just for a little more context about this gentleman, I had sent him my bio and an email and everything before I arrived. I said, "Sir, I'm really looking for." I was so excited. And this guy didn't respond. He didn't respond to me. He didn't call me.
Didn't care. He
Nothing.
didn't care that he's got a new officer coming in.
Nope. And so when I finally arrived, he didn't approach me at all. Again, avoided me like the plague. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey sir, nice to meet you. I'm Lieutenant Gruppo. I'm really looking forward to blah blah. I sent you my bio. I was wondering if you had any questions or whatever." And he goes, I don't like to do that over email. I prefer to do it in person." There was no mentorship. There was nothing. And so anyway, what came out of this conversation, um, it was the victim blaming. It was, "What did you do wrong?" Um, and then he, I guess, immediately went to the first sergeant as soon as I left the office, like no sort of tact whatsoever. And next thing you know, first sergeant's calling me into his office and he's like very aggressively telling me, "I can help you file a complaint." Because his full time job was at division and the first sergeant was just his drill time. And yeah, just
So,
really, really
would it be safe to say that they saw you coming and you weren't welcomed?
100%.
So how did
And
that on a personal level for you, how did that affect you in any way as far as like your identity and stuff?
yeah, at the time, I didn't think too deeply about it other than what I had already kn known to be true was that, "Okay, I'm gonna have a target on my back." And with that being said, my platoon sergeant there, he was a good guy, um, but he told me the same thing. Like, basically, the way I looked at it was, "Okay, I'm not gonna give these fuckers a reason to doubt me or to they're not going to be able to say that I don't belong or whatever." And so basically proving myself. For example, we had a sniper section and there was a tryout for it. And I was like, "I'm going to go do the 12-mile ruck with my guys." None of them passed it except me.
You smoked all the guys?
Yeah. In the hills on Camp Pendleton
Ah!
with a heavy ass ruck. Just an example. Just a
So,
little example.
but it seems like Riley, like you went through a bunch of trauma, really, kind of at the start of everything,
100%.
and then so
100%.
what now is you how do I want to word this? Going through the trauma, how did you carry that through your entire career? And then my first question is a two-part question. How were you able to carry that through your career, and then how did you overcome it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you because there's a little more details I'd like to share, a little more that played into it and led me to overcoming basically. Um, yeah, so all that aside, there was still inappropriateness, like unwanted touching, unwanted comments, all that bullshit, honestly, and people doubting me, people that were supposed to protect me and mentor me doubting me. Um, and so when I went to my infantry qualification training. And I say infantry qualified officer because people get confused when I say I was a company commander and they think, "Oh, you commanded an infantry unit, blah, blah, blah." No, I didn't, but I was an infantry officer. I never became a public affairs officer, but just for the sake of
Right. Because
understanding.
people will question. There are the haters out there. They'll be like, "Oh, what do you mean by that? You can't
What do you
do
mean? You
that."
commander? I know. Well, it's okay. That's
Shut
all right.
up. Sorry.
But yeah, so anyway, went to my training and this at this point I'm on active duty now.
Okay.
And yeah, finished college. So I was in school while I was in the guard still
Right.
finishing
Right.
like my degree and
Right.
then went to Fort Benning and it was a class of about 200
Was that your bullock?
and that yep,
Bullock.
yeah, good old 211. But, it really, that wasn't so bad.
Okay.
It really wasn't. It was actually refreshing, if I must say, because my peers weren't a bunch of misogynistic, crusty assholes. My peers were accepting and awesome, and they did not treat me unfairly. And they, in fact, were, I don't know, they treated me like one of the guys, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And it was like, just cool. And we went through the training together, and it was no big deal. The cadre there, I mean, you've got some hard asses, but they were mostly professional. I mean, nothing like what I had experienced. But again, they're cadre in a training unit, so they better be. But yeah, it was good. It wasn't bad in that way. And there were some other women too. I was really hoping we would be like girlfriends and have sleepovers and stuff and paint each other's nails, but they didn't want to do that. So, um, yeah, in fact, I actually got into it with one of the, anyway, I was just really excited that there were going to be other other women like me, because I mean, yeah, it never really dawned on me until I left and I was going through TAP. This retired infantry sergeant major, he asked me what I was getting out, and he's like, "We need more people that look like you." And I never really thought about it.
Right.
I said, "Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
probably do. That makes a big difference."
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so that was fine. But what really, I think, put the nail in the coffin for me with all this stuff was a relationship that I embarked on with another service member who was in the more one of the more elite units over there. And it was extremely abusive, extremely toxic. um, he outranked me, and he would even pull rank on me, just for example, in our relationship. But yeah, this guy abused me, and um, it just really put a bad taste in my mouth for our elite groups. I don't think that way anymore. I'm not labeling everyone as that, but
Right.
seeing, my family members that were in the elite, special forces groups, and they're not very good people. To this person who I thought, I was in love with them. We've lived together and everything. But yeah, it was extremely abusive. So anyway, he ends up getting deployed, and when he gets back from deployment, he tells me that he had another relationship the whole time in another country. And so he had a girlfriend in another country the whole time. But I broke it up off. So that's why I'm sharing this, is because I broke it off. And he tried all the manipulation tactics, and eventually ended up stalking me for a year, almost a year and a half afterward. And that really did not help my situation.
Right.
Um, so
I can
yeah,
only
I'm talking
imagine
like,
the stress and constant looking over the shoulder, or the paranoia, or just the emotional conflict that comes with all of that.
yeah, this guy, I would block him. He would find another platform to contact me on. He would show up at my house, because he even moved. So he moved states to go do a training. He wasn't even in the state anymore, and he would come back for business occasionally. And just to show up at my house and follow me in his car and text me like, "Hey, you look really nice today," and I didn't even know he was in town. You know what I mean? Like, weird stuff like that. So it got to the point where I said, "Listen, um, it's the last time I'll say this, but you need to stop contacting me." And he didn't. He did not respect that. So I went to the MPs, and I was like, or my commander first, I think, and I was like, "Hey, this is what's going on. Like, I just want him to leave me alone. I don't want him to get in trouble. I don't want to hurt his career, because he was, look, one of those people with all the lickies and chewies and
Right.
highly regarded
Right.
and whatever." So yeah, so my commander at the time at OSIT was amazing, really, really wonderful guy. And so was my direct supervisor when I ended up going to battalion operations after my platoon time.
Hmm.
Wonderful, wonderful, best people I
So
have
they
ever.
recognized what was going on after you
Mhm.
addressed it with them. I'm assuming then they were willing to look out for you, and be true leaders, and help you through this situation.
Yeah, and it was more complicated than I think it needs to be, but very army. of them.
Of course.
It's not, you know, like I
Uh,
had to. So I'll try to make a long story short. But basically, I wanted a military protective order. That's what we landed on,
right.
so that legally he would not be able to contact me. Holds more weight than a traditional restraining order,
Right.
and the MPs had jurisdiction of the surrounding city.
Right.
So that was the route we took. But in order to get one, so I went straight to the MPs after that, and after I let my commander know what was going on, and they helped me file it and everything, and they made it, and they were gonna. I guess his commander was going to give it to him, or I forgot exactly how it works, but somebody serves him basically
Right.
from his command. So, like, whoever the perpetrator is, they're they get notified as well from their command. So
Right.
both commands have to be on board. And what I learned was, and maybe it's different now since the army doesn't handle things like this anymore. Not the protective order, but like sexual assault and sexual harassment cases. Um, that you have to. At the time, I had to file a report, a sexual assault report, in order to get the military protective order. So all that paperwork we had done was it didn't
For not.
we had to redo it basically. So that wasn't fun, having to talk to this person I don't know now, like a victim advocate. It just became this huge thing that I didn't want it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Um, but I
Look,
filed it restricted.
looking back on it now, are you glad that you did?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because here's the thing about that stuff. If you don't want it to blow up, and again, I don't know if it's different now, this was a few years ago, but if you don't want something to blow up, if you don't want all your business out there, you can have a restricted report, which is what I did. And that
So
doesn't.
here's the bigger question, I think, Riley. It needs to
Mhm,
be asked is for those that are listening
mhm,
that are experiencing some type of abuse, particularly sexual abuse in a relationship that's military. Is it hard for them to, and I don't know, this is why I'm asking, but is it hard for them to say something? Is it hard to file? Is the process hard? Because I feel like it's twofold. Excuse me. I think some people think nowadays that the military, particularly the army in this case, is still old school in a lot of ways. Where in my day we would sweep that under the rug and we would handle it off to the side.
mhm.
Um, Whereas now, I think some people, I don't want to say victims. I think I don't want to use that word. I think people that are going through that have the mindset of nothing's going to get done, so why say anything at all?
Yeah, 100% they do. And I'll get into that because, going through this whole process, and I'll tell you how it was with it being handled by the army versus a civilian, because it got to the point where I had to transfer, and this is standard,
Right.
and it should be standard, transfer the report to
Over
my
to
new
right.
duty station. So technically the protective order at that point was null and void. Um,
Is that
but
protective order just good for that base? Or when you TDY or when you PCS somewhere else, if you carry that protective order with you, does it then go into effect on that base as well?
so at the time it wasn't. It was only under the command that it was filed under,
Oh,
and that particular base. So, and I didn't renew a protective order, but I did let my command know what was going on and that I had this thing, um, when I did PCS. But um, I guess my point is, it was handled by a soldier, another soldier, the report, when I was at Fort Benning. And then it was handled, which was a new process, by a civilian over at Fort Meade. And it was night and day. It was completely night and day. It was so much better. the civilians, they were on top of it. They took their job so seriously. It wasn't just a, I'm going to punch this in and then forget about you, or try to coerce you into making a statement to make this more something, which is what it felt like to me with the Fort Benning representative. But yeah, so you can do that, and it'll transfer, and not the MPO, but the report. And then the other thing I learned too was that you can make it, so you can make it the report unrestricted anytime if you wish to have a full-fledged investigation.
Gotcha.
But to be aware that that involves your leadership, that involves CID if it's criminal, which assault is criminal. So it'll be a whole thing. So you better be telling the truth, for one, and two, have all your facts and your ducks in a row.
Right.
If and be, I guess, most importantly, just be prepared for the lens or the magnifying glass that someone could be put under with an unrestricted report. Now, unfortunately, if somebody in command is aware of the situation for whatever reason, and this is the part that kind of irks me a little bit, is that it's automatically unrestricted at that point. Like, once you tell somebody in a leadership position, it is their responsibility to take that.
Yeah.
But you could have two different. I mean, it's a really complex thing. But one thing I would encourage somebody to do if they find themselves in a situation like this is go and talk to their representative, the SARC. Might be different now that it's civilians, but whoever that sexual harassment and assault representative is, they're usually really, really good. And I know mine were. And yeah.
All right, Riley, I want to I want to transition a bit here. You're out of the military now. You're an entrepreneur. So what is it? What is your latest preneur?
My latest preneur. It's so funny. When people ask me what I'm doing now, I feel like I have to list the laundry list of things that I'm doing. Um, but but that's the you
got your hand. I laugh because I'll tell you, listeners and viewers, because she's a lot. She reminds me a lot of myself. So she's got her hands in a lot of different pots right now.
I was gonna say, you know how it goes, but it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, and that's good.
Yeah,
that's fine with me.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. So
yeah,
what is it? You're an entrepreneur. You're a public speaker. But what's your business now? What are you focusing on right now, or what do you got going?
Yeah, my main focus. So my branding, just rebranded, is the Standard.
Okay.
Trademark. Because if there is one thing that I've realized, is that literally, this might sound cheesy, but the world is your oyster, and you can choose your own adventure. If you went through all this trauma stuff, if you were told you were something by everyone else, you can choose who you want to be, and you can set your own standards. And most people are not operating at the standards they're capable of, whether that's in fitness, whether that's personally, whether that's professionally. So, my goal is to help bridge that gap. So, the standard that people are currently operating at versus what they're capable of is what I aim to build via selective one-on-one coaching and programs. So I'll be rolling out a fitness program after my giveaway ends. My giveaway ends on Sunday. It's my first giveaway. I was so excited. But
hold on. No, you can't just say, look, your giveaway. People are listening, like, what giveaway? How come I missed it? Blah, blah, blah. Tell us about the giveaway and where can people find it?
Some people might say this is crazy, but I don't care. I'm just really, really happy about this community that is developing, and my audience and I are creating, and it's just so cool. So I have a little community. You know how you can do on Instagram? You can make a little group chat. It's a group chat.
Yep.
So I've got the ready room, and those are my folks that are ready. They are ready to operate at that next level standard, because they actually like my posts. And it reached 100 members recently.
Nice.
Now it's at
Congratulations.
120. Yeah. So I said, okay, guys, we're gonna celebrate and do a giveaway. So it's not, nothing crazy, but it's a $100 Lululemon gift card, and the runner-ups will receive um they'll have first access to my fitness program
Nice.
and 30-minute strategy session with
So
me.
you said Instagram. Put
Mhm.
your handle out there so people can go follow you. So what's your handle?
It's my name, Riley Gruppo.
There you go, guys.
RILEYGRUPPO.
And we're gonna have
And
that. We're gonna tag her in the comment section. There in the show notes below as well. So we'll have all of your how people can reach you on there.
yeah, and that's for all social media:
Okay.
LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Threads. That's all I have.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. So it ends Sunday, the giveaway, the 22nd of February.
Lululemon, folks. Pretty
That's what
fancy.
everybody,
Yeah.
they wanted, that or other. Those were the two. I took a poll. I love to get everybody's input because
Yeah.
this is for them,
Yeah.
Um, it was Lululemon gift card or other.
Nice. So let me ask you this. Who is your ideal client?
I ideally, and I've turned people down already, um, even though I just launched this, because I'm not going to work with somebody who isn't serious. Um, Ideally, veteran first responder space, just because we have similar identities and that makes for a good coaching relationship.
Right.
Doesn't have to be somebody that considers themselves a high performer, and they really want to elevate to the next level, whatever that is. It could be in their fitness. They again, they want to stop operating at their average standard, the average standard. They want to level up. So it could be a guy, it could be a gal, but generally just somebody who's serious about change and willing to put in the work and listen to me. So I'll hold you accountable.
You better listen, y'all.
Well, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, in fact, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
They can do whatever they put their mind to as long as they're willing to accept the consequences. But it's not easy.
Right.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
So
So having somebody there to push you through it and show you the way, like I coach for the Honor Foundation right now voluntarily.
nice.
And yeah, it's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah.
But it's just for me selfishly so rewarding to add value to somebody in that way who is, because they're this for the special operations community that's transitioning out
Right.
of the military. And so I'm just so grateful to be able to give back in that way and show them, hey, I did these things. Here's, the
Do
way,
you,
save you a lot of heartache.
do you feel that that's like your purpose in life right now?
Right now,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. My calling, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but literally the pull from God, I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't turn an eye to it. And I did not grow up in strong faith. I did not grow up knowing God, but I know God so well now. And He was telling me so clearly, you need to do these things. You need to be loud and bold about what you went through because you're going to help so many people. And I said, okay, on it. Roger that.
Nice. Riley, I got one more question for you. As we're coming up on the hour here, I asked this question to all my guests on this show. The show is called The Decision Hour because we have to make decisions every day, right?
Mhm.
And you've certainly given us a lot of decisions today. But I want you to think about, just for a moment, I want you to think about a time in your life where your feet are on the line and Riley has to make that decision. What is it? And what's the atmosphere like at that time?
That decision for,
It can be whatever. You got to make a decision. Your feet are on
yeah.
the line. I'm holding your feet are on the line right now. And I say, Riley,
Mhm.
you got to make the decision. What
Hmm.
decision is Riley making at that time, and what's the atmosphere like?
Like, I guess my personal
Could be anything.
life right now.
Could be anything, Riley. I
That's
know.
a really open-ended
Yeah.
question,
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam.
I know.
Okay. Give me a second. Give me a second. Okay. Let me think about this for one moment.
Yeah. See, this is what I do,
Um,
people. While she's thinking about that, I'll just fill in some airspace here. I love catching people off guard. Like, ooh, that's a good question. Like, what
if I
decision
had
was that?
to make a decision,
You got to make a decision. What is it?
it um it would be to not waver.
Ooh.
To not
Okay.
mhm,
Explain.
to not waver in my beliefs, to not waver in this um opportunity that God has given me, that He has qualified me for, and to not waver in um, answering whatever the end result is that He's asking of me. Um, and what that looks like is staying true to myself. I'm not who I was a year ago. You know what I mean? I was a totally different person. I was in a very dark place. I was unwell, very unwell for a while, for years. And I'm finally at a place where I can hear God. I'm so aware and I've done the work. Um, and it's just, I don't want to um, ever step back into that life where I was letting other people define who I am versus myself. So I will never waver on that. And I will always stay true to myself. And I encourage other people to do the same, because who cares what people think? Because most people don't even like themselves.
Spoken like a true leader right there. I love it.
Thank you.
Riley, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me yap for an hour.
I love it. Folks, this isn't going to be the last time you hear from Riley, so stay tuned because there will be more coming from Riley. We're going to have all of her contact information stuff in the show descriptions below. Just go ahead and click on it. Make sure you follow her on social media. Check out her website, all of that stuff. Check her stuff out and get involved. She's got the giveaway until Sunday, so make sure you get involved with everything that she's doing. Also, got to give a shout out to our parent company, Heroes Media Group. Go to heroesmediagroup.com. Check out all the great shows, articles, and everything that's going on over there. Again, heroesmediagroup.com. That's all the time that we got today, folks. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.